Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the BTB Movie Club podcast. My name is Matt Smith. We hope you enjoyed today's movie discussion. Thanks for listening.
So, ladies and gentlemen, here we are for movie number 205. This is the fabulous movie Searching for Bobby Fischer from 1993. This was Matt Smith's pick. We invited Dentino to show up, and he told me on Friday he was going to, and I haven't heard from him since.
I texted him today. I said, hey, we're meeting at 8. I can send you the link. And he goes, sorry, probably not going to make it.
Oh, okay, there you go.
So that's...
When he did the 15 Years Later podcast, he showed up at my house and asked the question, what was the link for? So I'm waiting for him to walk in the door at any time because...
Yeah, I did tell him in the text, it is a Zoom call. I made sure to put that twice because he actually probably lives closer to me than he lives to you because
that's true. Yeah,
my way. So I was sort of, just saying, don't come to my house.
I like how he keeps everybody on your toes. You just never know with Dentino. He's a wizard. So anyway, Matt, it was your pick. We are Dentino-less. Take it away, sir.
All right. I had actually never seen this before. I saw some clips, saw some reels or whatever, and it had been popping up on my reel thing on Facebook. So I said, I can definitely connect this. So I'm interested to hear what you guys think, based on a true story, obviously. So I'll start with Dan. Dan's in my upper corner here. So,
all right. First time for me also seeing this movie.
Wow.
I don't know how that one slipped by me all these years, but I really liked it. I was wondering about the title, and then as I got into the movie, I realized, it's chess parents and chess teachers who want their kids to be like Bobby Fischer, which obviously in real life they wouldn't want him to be like him, because I read a little bit about him and he's a little fucked up.
Yeah,
he's not with us anymore, but he was a little messed up dude. I really like the his two coaches, I guess you want to call them, the guy from the park, Vinny, and his actual coach, Bruce, was that his name, I believe?
Yeah, Pandolfini. Which made me giggle every time I heard it.
Yeah, they're two different styles, as Vinny's in your face kind of chess playing. He's always telling him to bring his queen out right away, and the other more conservative coach tell him to keep his queen back and save him. So he's got those two conflicting things going on there, two different styles in his head on what to do. And it seemed like at the end in the last chess match, he used both those styles. He brought his queen out early, ended up losing his queen, but then he started thinking about what Bruce was telling him to do, and so he kind of used both styles to defeat his nemesis, the other 8-year-old or 5-year-old kid, however old he was. But yeah, I got it at the end. He gave him the chance at the draw, but it's like, no, you gotta play where you win, you lose. You can't get in a draw. When you're gonna lose, accepting a draw is just not the right thing. So the other kid didn't take it, which is kind of one of the big questions of the movie, is winning everything. And I think young Josh showed us that it's not. At the end there, he's consoling his little buddy, and but that's the thing. Josh knows. The movie, Josh, he knows that even though he wins, he's happy he wins, but he knows that everybody else is going to lose and be heartbroken as a result of that, and he understands that. But what else have I got here? I lost my train of thought there.
Don't move until you see it, Dan.
Right. He's consumed with chess at first, as he likes it, he likes doing it, but then as he gets further along, he's expected to win, and then he doesn't, he doesn't like it as much. So that was kind of the right strategy with him, to kind of ease him off and take him fishing and do other things with him, let him be a kid a little bit, rather than being this chess person, which we show at the beginning with the adults in that chess tournament. They were all like a little messed up, they're all consumed with chess and trying to win. And they said the one guy, dropped out of college, and he's a little kind of a lunatic now because that's all he wants to do is play chess and win. And but yeah, I really liked it. Got some more stuff for later, but good pick. I like that. It's 30 years old, but I think it holds up. It could come out today, and I think it would be a really good movie. So good pick.
All right. Yeah, you kind of mentioned it. Do you think this movie, I mean, it's about chess, obviously, but do you think it's more about like the parent-child, and not just chess, but any activity, anything where your parents are clearly more invested in it than the children? Did you find that to be the case?
Oh, definitely. And I think the guys in this group that have coached children, have probably have some stories about that, craziness going on with the parents getting really involved in what's going on with their kids.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And then the only other question I have, what's your go-to chess move, Dan? What's your opener? You going with a pawn, a knight? What are you doing?
I as I was watching this, I thought about that because I used to play chess a lot, back when I was younger, and I thought I really haven't played chess since high school. But it was I think it was called the rook. Rooking your king, I think it's called.
Yeah.
You can castling, that's the word
Castling your
for it.
king.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you can move your king over and like
Yep.
guard it with your
It's a good
rook.
one.
So
That is a good one. All right. Well, thank
that
you,
was my
sir.
go-to move back in the day.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, Aaron Lashbrook, not Lash, even though that's what your screen says, and I have it in my phone still as Aaron Lash, but that's okay.
Cool. Aaron Lashbrook. I was like, is there another one? Great pick. I knew I had seen it. I believe I had only seen it once, but as I'm watching it, I'm like, I know a lot of lines from this movie. So either I've seen it more than I thought, or it was so good, like, some of those lines just ingrained themselves into me because I know I've quoted this movie and I didn't remember this is the movie the quotes came from.
Hmm.
So I'm sure as I'm talking or somebody else will talk, I'll come up with another one or come up with a couple. But even towards the end, when my wife walked in, um, I was like, oh my God, I know what he's going to say, and I was like saying it before he said it. And, I was like, I probably saw this in, my guess would be 1994 or five. I don't recall seeing it at the theater. I don't remember searching it out to watch it for any reason. It must have been on. I must have watched it, but um, forgot how good it was. It's a really, really good movie. One thing I really liked that had nothing to do with the movie itself, but I watched it on Prime. Pretty sure is that how everybody watched it.
Yeah.
So
It wasn't, it was full screen. It wasn't like cropped or anything, but it still had the imperfections of film. I don't know if anybody else noticed it every once in a while, the black dots or the white lines that would,
Hmm.
just like watching it in the theater, and it's not something, I do have a few albums. I got some of the Bear Hambone stuff. And so I like albums, but I don't like pine for the good old days, like when everything was on vinyl or even CDs or tapes for me. It's not like I'm going to go out and, I don't know, try to live in the past, but it was kind of a cool little nostalgic thing. Just to see those little blips and imperfections while I was watching it. It reminded me of how old it was, how old I am, how old this movie is, and still I think it touched on some really deep um, philosophical, particularly American, and probably global, but um, beliefs, hang-ups. I don't know what it is. There's a lot to do about winning, pushing children to win, what winning means. And I think that's evolved a lot in the last 30 years. But not Ray Liotta. Who's the dad? It's
Joe
Benga.
Montana.
yeah, Montana.
Joe Montana.
Yeah.
Fat Tony. It's Fat
Yeah.
Tony.
Ray
Him
Romano.
about in the middle, like when the kid, I think everybody assumes, throws that match and loses in 7 moves, and is just coming down on him. Was a great
in the
turning.
pouring down rain, by the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Tell me what you were thinking. How could you do this? Why? There's no way that could happen. Being a hockey kid, not that my parents were that pushy, but it would be like after a big loss or whatever, and you'd be getting questioned about shit you don't really remember doing, didn't mean to do. And never, in my case, and I know it happened to other people, never like accusatory or, mad, just like trying to suss out just, what was happening, what was going on, but still, I don't want to talk about it. We lost a game we were supposed to win, or we won a game and I didn't play particularly good, and I don't want to talk about it. But just the parents wanting to fix everything and trying to make it better so you can win. From Breakfast Club, the wrestler, his dad said, similar theme in my head of what they were going through. But the overall arc of this kid finding something new, obviously he's very intelligent, finding something new that's challenging, and they kind of related that to the Bobby Fischer thing. Having a passion for learning about it, wanting to be better at it, and then adults kind of ruining it for him by making it about winning, not about learning and playing and having fun. Sometimes playing the fast way in the park with the guys who are swearing and selling drugs and whatever, but also, respecting the time he had with his more traditional coach. But just the adults, like Dan brought up at the start, the very first tournament he goes to, the adults like ruining it, getting in fights. The kids are just there to have fun, learn, play, whatever. For me, I never had. Brian's played a couple different sports. I don't have a killer instinct about winning. I don't have a win at all costs. I don't have the you have to hate, or what was the term he used? It wasn't despise. You have to have contempt. You have to have contempt for the person you're playing. And he's like, I don't. I like him. I don't hate the little girl across from me or whatever. And like, I liked playing. Winning's obviously more fun than losing. But I still do, Dan, we're old. We're not good. I'm sorry to break that to you, but we play hockey because we like playing the game. It's just fun. It's fun to get out and play and compete, win or lose, have a beer after, and move on with your life. There are still guys in their 50s who believe they have a shot at something. And it might be just to get picked to be on the 50 and over beer keg tournament team where they can win, the Stanley keg, whatever. I don't need to be on that team to have a good time, throughout the year. One other thing, and I'm kind of rambling about I did do a little background on this. The mother was offered to several other actresses that turned it down. I don't recognize this one from many or anything. I thought she did a great job. Especially at the start when she's talking her husband down and kicking the coach out, basically just protecting, he's a good kid with a good heart, and you guys aren't going to ruin that. So I thought she did an excellent job. I thought she might, and just because of tradition at the time, 93 to, whatever, forever in cinema, she seemed a bit old, because they always have a super younger looking mom, very, and the actresses they offered it to, you could see that's what they were going for. But I thought she did an excellent job. Overall, I thought the acting top to bottom was excellent, even with all the kids. I don't think there was any kid that stood out as, drawing your attention away from the story. So I thought it was really, really good. Glad I watched it again. Good pick, Matt.
Thanks. Yeah, the mom, I recognized her, and I didn't know from where. The Bourne movies. She's in a couple of the Bourne movies.
Yep. Okay.
I was like, I had to look it up. I didn't remember that, but yeah. And then the kid they picked. You talked about the kids. The kid they picked actually knew how to play chess. They said that was one of the requirements because they didn't want to like teach a kid how to play grandmaster chess, but also they wanted it to be realistic, somewhat realistic.
His facial expressions. He said tons without saying a word.
Oh yeah,
just with the look in his eyes,
for sure, great actor. And he kind of, if you look at the older version of Josh, he does kind of have a resemblance to him. Even the younger version, I guess that makes more sense. But yeah, so good stuff. What's your go-to chess move, Aaron?
Not playing.
This makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I thought you were going to go with knocking the pieces off the board.
No, I'm not a violent man. I'd be friendly. I would sit there and talk and drink with the person as long as they talked with me, and then they would be like, "Are we going to play?" And I'd be like, "Not me," and I'd leave. But yeah, it wouldn't be violent or disruptive in any way. I'd be friendly.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, we'll talk about it again. I definitely hear what you're saying about kids and parents, and it's a different world. And as a father and a part-time coach of a travel baseball team, I can definitely relate to all the craziness and stupidness and I am guilty of it as well. So
right, I'd want to believe it's getting better, but I have access to the internet.
I don't think it is.
Yeah,
I don't
not
think
getting
it is
better.
And I'm sure Brian has some stories too.
Not better.
Speaking of which, let's go to Brian while we're at it.
I've seen the movie, and I'm trying to remember what movie we watched a while ago in the group that had some form of chess in it or something, because it led to some discussion about the Anna Joy Taylor Netflix Queen's Gambit. And I was like, you know what? Searching for Bobby Fischer popped up somewhere along the lines, and so I took the time to watch it a couple of years ago and really enjoyed it. It's a real good movie. You actually, I feel like you can tell the dad wrote the book that it's based on, because the way he comes across in it, it's just like the in the rain scene was basically the only scene that they even pretended to make him look like a bad guy, and that wasn't even that bad, because your son just completely shit on your weekend, and you take him to this tournament and he throws the game in 7 moves and he's like expected to win.
Did you just say the son shit on his weekend?
He did.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Did anybody try to hide a reaction to that? I was reading the list of movies.
No,
but
there
that
was no
is
I was like,
100% how
how
the 80s or 90s would have been. It was your parents' weekend in Kitchener. You know how much we spent, and you guys, went 0-2 or whatever.
I'm not here to eat
100%.
Timbits. I'm here in Kitchener to play some hockey. Oh, the team from Regina came down and sorry. I thought it was hilarious. But you kind of knew he was playing along with his dad. He knew he was going to whoop his dad and didn't want to. And throwing the phone books off the chair was kind of like the from Over the Top, turning the head around, Lincoln Hawks. That's kind of what I took it as. Like, all right, you want to play? Let's play. Then he
over the top.
He's
an over the top reference
Yeah.
out of nowhere.
he clearly stringing his dad along, and then he's like, he finishes the game from the bathtub and it's like, hey, we can go out now, right? I'm thinking to myself, no, you just took a bath. You're in for the day. Where are you going to go? So, my had a little event at work on Friday, and on Thursday somebody got a hold of me and it was like, hey, have you seen that board with the arrow looking? So spit take on Matt again. Awesome.
You almost got me.
So I had to take the whiteboard back to work on Friday because I was like, ah. But if the whiteboard was here, I was just going to put the word Jadobi, I believe, or Jadob on there, which is a chess term. The two guys were arguing in the chess room, and the term, it has to do, it's you have to announce it so you're touching a piece to adjust it, not to move. And the guy said that, and the other guy was like, no, you moved it. You completely moved the piece. He's like, no, Jadob. So I was like,
Was that
I
the
thought that was hilarious.
Tony Shalhoub and
Monk. Yeah.
and can't remember his name, the guy from
guy with
Billy
the beard.
Madison. Yeah, he's in a couple of things.
Yes.
That was that
Yeah.
scene. Yeah. It's funny.
Yep. Little Jonathan's a dick. I mean, that kid, he was just, yeah, look on his face. He's laughing at the guys making moves in the chess group, and just it's like he was good, but he didn't do anything else but play chess. Thought it was funny. So clearly the guy who's coaching Jonathan now was Ben's coach when he was younger, and he clearly didn't. Ben Kingsley, I'm sorry, Bruce in the movie, and Bruce didn't have the killer instinct and let him down, and but he comes in with them to kind of just be a jerk, and he sends Josh off to get a Coke, and he comes back, and I just thought it was weird he opened it for him. Like, I don't like, kid can't open his own Coke. What's going on here?
He's 7.
Yeah. Okay.
It's no excuse, Dan. He should be able to open his own Coke and win chess
I thought
tournaments.
well, we never see what happens with the Coke. I thought he just drank the Coke. I thought the kid came back with it and he opened it and drank it himself. Like that's what how I took it.
He stole the Coke from the kid.
Yeah, he
Got it.
did. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
worse. Yeah.
I did enjoy the narration, using the kid Josh to do the narration for it, talking about Bobby Fischer and those things. To me, it felt like there was a connection between Josh and Bobby Fischer. So I did enjoy that. I do think Bruce was a coward in this. I feel he didn't really know how to coach, and he, it's like saying the guy who put Mozart in front of the piano the first time taught him how to play. And it's like, no, you didn't. It was inside him. You just happened to be there when it came out of him. But he held on to that and turned that into speaking engagements and having other pupils and these ideas that, and coming up with a certificate for the master chess and
To
master
me,
class
sorry,
points.
I mean
Oh,
cut
go
you
ahead.
off, but to me, I think it was kind of implied that he was afraid to go to tournaments because he was afraid of losing and then losing his position as a coach and all this stuff. So that's kind of what I thought of his character.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree with you, Dan. That's why he kept trying to talk kids out of going, and it's like, in the Lawrence Fishburne part of it too. It's like, oh, don't go play chess with them, and don't, because they're going to teach him better than you are. There is a part of chess that is being aggressive and having an attack plan than there is always defense. So really, again, really good pick, good movie. I'm glad we got a chance to watch it as a group, and I enjoyed watching it again. Although I want to be clear, I think the character Jonathan was a dick. The actor, unfortunately, he's passed away at 13 years old. So
Really?
even if he was, he's not anymore. So,
But
But-
since you brought it up, you know, even thinking the kid was a dick, but he was obviously taught that same thing that his coach was trying to teach him. You got to have contempt. You got to hate everyone
Right.
you play. Basically, you got to hate everyone else who plays chess. You know, chess. Um,
That's a different conversation.
okay.
Anyway,
How old are
the
your
point of my story
students, Aaron?
I was thinking back to the clip I sent the group. Did he?
You send that a lot.
Not that one. Different boob references. I'm not even a boob guy. Ask my wife.
We've seen your wife. I've
Yeah.
seen your wife.
Brian's seen my wife. Tim knows my wife.
Where are
Where's
we
it going?
going here? What is
What is
happening right
happening?
now?
We're going with the kid
We're
wasn't a dick.
castling. We're
The
castling.
little kid. Castling. The kid wasn't a dick because he was a little kid and he was taught to act like that. He was told he needed to act like that. So, that's all I was going with.
Off the rails. So, yep.
All right.
That's
Sorry, you're
pretty much
good.
all I have. No, yeah, that's yep.
Okay, what's your go-to chess move, Brian Larson?
I bring the rook out. First
Nice.
move.
That you can't.
Not the rook.
That's
Night.
not possible.
Sorry.
Night.
Okay.
Night.
Hey, good
Night.
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 That makes much
Okay,
more sense.
that-
That's
yeah,
how
that makes
aggressive
sense.
Brian is when he
That's
plays
how-
chess.
yeah.
He breaks the rule.
Goes over the poor pawn that's in front
Yeah.
of the rook.
No.
You can fuck
My
this guy.
apologies. Night.
I'll just sacrifice him myself.
You
Okay.
can jump in this game, right?
I throw the
Knight to
pawn
rook
at the
4.
guy and then move my rook.
Brian runs over his own pawns so that he can take
Yeah.
his rook out.
Right.
That would be a Brian move for sure.
All right. Tim Larson.
Okay, I like what just happened here. That Brian said the kid's a dick and Aaron said the kid's not a dick. He is coached that way. I like that this movie makes you ponder things like that. Any movie where you can take away the theme and it sort of leaves you still thinking about it, I always like that. And having coached kids and more importantly, coaching against kids like this, like seeing assholes on the tennis court, and they're girls, and at a tennis match, you know exactly where it comes from because it's not like volleyball or basketball or football where the crowd is constantly loud. Tennis is a pretty quiet game. And so you can hear their parents the whole fucking time the match is going on. So you get irritated with the player and then you hear the parents, you're like, oh, yep, got it. I see where that's coming from. And there is something to seeing kids embarrassed by their parents, and you see kids who kind of act that way because they feel like if I don't, my parents are going to be mad at me. And then you see some kids who are just assholes, just like their parents. Like there's all three of those versions for sure. You know, this guy wrote this book about his son being a chess player and their experiences, but the movie really does. I mean, Aaron put this really well. It really does have a theme of, are parents actually equipped to handle this kind of thing? You know what I mean? Like most of the time we're talking about coaching kids who are decent. And as a coach, you're just decent and the teams you're playing are just decent. I mean, we're talking about a kid with serious talent, or it's supposed to look like that in this movie, beyond what a parent could handle. I just love watching the dad struggle with trying to be excited about it and trying to not overdo it. Although most of the not overdoing it comes from his wife telling him not to overdo it.
Right.
And I like that dynamic too. So this story is really, really good. I have a hard time disagreeing with anything Aaron said. I really enjoy this movie. I like the theme. I like what you're supposed to take away from it. There's some humility in the way this guy wrote this, or if the book is different from the movie, there's some humility in the way that Steve Zalian spin that he put on it. I loved it then, and I loved it now. And I did take a look at this, like, does it hold up? Like, that's one thing as I was watching it, because last week we watched one from the early 90s, and you could kind of tell early 90s stuff, and I really didn't feel too much where I was like, yeah, it's a little outdated. If I'm nitpicking, it would just be nice to see the mom be wrong once in the movie. Like, our mom's always right every time. You know, like, I know pretty much, but just could she just not have the right answer every time? Um, I also love the info about Bobby Fischer. I thought it was not only really good to tie in the idea behind the movie, like the standard, right? Like, here's the standard, here's the bar, but it was good for transitional stuff in the movie.
Mhm.
It was well placed. I did I did write down that Bobby Fischer, what a whack job. Yep, he ended up that pretty much took over his life. I don't know if you guys have looked up like all the stuff he did after, but
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Well, Tim, since you just brought it up,
yeah,
that kind of, I wish they actually would have brought more into after looking some stuff up, because I got fascinated by it. And just tonight I was looking up more stuff and watched a little 10-minute video on him. The whole thing about what you were calling him the standard, and or the not even the standard, the bar.
yeah,
that whole thing about the fine line between the goat of anything, or who becomes great at something. The whole there's a fine line between genius and crazy or something like that. It's like, at what cost? To all right, so I'm going to beat Bobby Fischer. I'm going to be better than Bobby Fischer, and he lost his mind. Either because that's who he was on his way there. He might have had mental issues that just weren't, to the push to the forefront. And as he got older, they manifested more or whatever. But there could be something about that crazy that got him to the level he was. And then as he got older, it pushed him over. But it's like, I don't know. It's that scary bar that, do you want to push your kid that far?
right.
Do you have to be broken to achieve that? And is it worth breaking a person, not even a kid or whatever, to be the best ping pong player that's ever existed, or
Right.
whatever whatever you're good at? So I thought that would have been a little bit more they could have put into it, showing that the kid was right, just wanting as a little tiny kid, just to play the game and have fun doing it and be the best he could at it, rather than all these outside influences, these adults trying to, push him to be the next Bobby Fischer, kind of thing. I don't know. I thought that could have been a little bit more. They did touch on Bobby Fischer, but they made it all seem good. And when you look at the history since, 78 or whatever, I think he showed up one more time and played for $5 million or something like that. But still crazy then too, the shit he put Iceland through, or wherever the hell they played that game. But anyway, just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like, the kids start showing flashes of this brilliance alongside of just what looks like a pure joy of playing the game, right? Like, there's both of those things are happening at the same time. And it's like, for the parent, you can't separate those two things, but the kid definitely has two separate things. Like, he enjoys learning the game and being good at the game, but he's also just kind of enjoying an experience. And like, parents are just kind of left out of the decision-making process of when the kid kind of falls out of love with something. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know if your kid, even if they're that talented, is going to want to do this forever. Like, I'm not a parent. And if I was, this is the kind of shit that would drive me insane. Like, how do I do this? I'm not prepared for this, So anyway, I wrote down, I would hate to be the guy running that tournament. When I don't know that actor's name, Carla's husband from Cheers.
Hidayah,
Dan Hedaya.
Hidayah, he's great.
I love the way he plays that character, and I totally fucking get that character. All right, we're gonna have a good match here, and I love how they set it up as if he's talking to the kids, but he's not talking to the kids.
Yeah.
And he ends up locking them all in a locker.
Yeah.
Like, all right, here we go. Like, throw the clipboard. Like, that guy has seen too many of these parents in his day. I would just hate that job, and I think he played that beautifully. William H. Macy is always great. I wrote that down as soon as I saw him. Tuna fish sandwich and all. I wrote down the dad's conversations are cringeworthy. There are so many times where he's using his real soft voice talking to Josh, like, "Hey, so do you want to go play this tournament?" Where he really wants his son to go play that tournament, like it's almost like he's manipulating him a bit. And I just found a little bit of that cringeworthy because he wanted his son to be great. This this thing is, he's just living vicariously through his son is what he's doing. And again, good for whoever made this movie for showing the humility of knowing that you made that foul, right? Um, let's see. We
And
already
that's the
talked.
first thing that Josh says, at the beginning of the movie, because I'm going to be a second baseman for the Yankees because his dad's,
Yeah,
at the game as a writer.
yeah. Great, funny line in there too. By the way, the other guy going, "Well, you could use a second baseman." I wrote down and circled the "I'm sorry, Dad" line in there. I thought that was a really tender moment. Let's see. There are real life characters all over this movie. If you guys looked into it, Josh's actual mom is one of the moms that the actress mom is talking to when she picks him up early in the movie. Josh himself and Vinny himself, they're in the background in the park when they're playing in the park. In some of the park scenes and in that little chess practicing area, whatever you would call that, there were some real chess players in there. Um, the guy the guy who looked like he'd lost his mind and like kept talking aimlessly and like he couldn't put thoughts together, that chess player didn't want to be part of the movie. And that was one where they took some liberties because he wasn't actually like that. He was actually a little more clear of thought, and he was a little offended by that. What else I got here? The dad wrote the book. Oh, one really cool trivia piece. Josh finds the chess piece the first time he goes to the park when it starts raining and he goes to get his baseball back. That particular chess piece, it's a replica of a knight from the Isle of Lewis chessmen, and that's the earliest known found pieces of chess from the 12th century. And it's the same style that Harry Potter and Ron play in the Sorcerer's Stone. So I like that little research that they did there to pull that off. So super glad you picked it. Really impressed that a movie from 1993 holds up as well as it does, because sometimes, you watch them, a lot of the music from that 93, 94 area was really, they were a lot of keyboard heavy in there and some smooth jazz stuff and transitions. And you really it's hard to watch. That didn't really happen here. So I'm glad this movie stuck up, and I'm glad that you guys, I'm glad we all watched. I'm glad you picked it. Really fun.
What's your go-to chess move, Tim?
Oh, I like to get in the middle of the game. I like to get knights close to each other because they're so versatile that they can move in so many different directions. If you have them close to each other, you got a lot of options.
Excellent. All right, Mike Hilty.
Yeah, it was a great pick. Really like this movie. I haven't seen it in a while, so it's really good. Um, a lot of what, I was going to talk about has already been kind of talked about, so I'll kind of pivot and talk about a couple other things. Is that I do love that the book that this is based on is strictly about his father, the father's observations of what it's like to be a dad of a chess prodigy and everything like that. And like, cool, this is what we're getting ourselves into with that. But the book has been praised as, something that is a pretty good portrayal of what it's like to kind of just be a fly on the wall at these chess tournaments, because he the guy who wrote this, he got interested, he got swept up in the Bobby Fischer mania and then realized, yeah, I'm not talented enough for this, and then picked it back up once he noticed that his son had some talent for this. As for Josh, I'm waiting for the sequel of this, the Searching for Bobby Fischer, the Karate Kid, because apparently he's pretty good at martial
Yes.
arts as
Yeah.
well. So, where's the sequel for this? We gotta We got a bunch of sequels for random movies lately. If Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey could get a sequel, why on earth can
We
Searching
almost
for
made
Bobby
it.
Fischer?
They
We almost made it.
The streak continues.
Good you're the anchor, Hilty. It's good that you're the anchor.
I do what I can. This was nominated for 1 Oscar for cinematography, losing out to some bullshit movie called Schindler's List. So, good for that. But the guy who wrote and directed this also wrote Schindler's List
Right.
as well.
Right.
So he had a phenomenal year. But this guy also wrote movies such as Gangs of New York, Awakenings, Moneyball. He's one to definitely keep up with. He's made a lot of great movies. This was part of AFI's top 100 Years, 100 Cheers movies. It was number 96, beating out such movies as Chariots of Fire, Race, Ray, The Karate Kid, and a movie about Marie Curie. So that was cool. I did want to talk about the Hollywoodization of biopic or of biographies and things like that because Hollywood takes liberties with certain things, and it's done for dramatic effect. I get that, but sometimes it does suck once you kind of read up on some of this. So the final match, the character of Jonathan Poe, who's his opponent, who we talked a lot about, the whole, this is what it looks like when someone is doing this for the love of the game, and this is what it looks like when somebody is like being forced to do this and do like eat, breathe, do everything for chess. And that's, Jonathan Poe, future, I'm sure, serial killer because he just looks kind of crazy throughout the whole movie. But this is what happens when he doesn't even go to school. He is just being taught how to play chess by some guy who looked very curiously like F. Murray Abraham, but that guy also looks creepy as fuck too. But
He played Sherlock Holmes, by the way, at one point in the movie. So,
there you go. So, but the character of Jonathan Poe, it is based on an actual life opponent of Josh's, Jeff Sawyer or something like that.
Yeah.
So Sawyer, Sour. I don't know.
There's an extra W where it doesn't belong in that name.
Yeah, I don't read well. Plus, also, a lot of great chess players are, have really weird names. Like, has anyone seen that? Yeah, has anyone seen that that SNL sketch where Chance the Rapper is he's normally a basketball reporter, but he's at a hockey game and he's like, this guy on the back of his jersey has 31 letters on the back. None of them are vowels, so that's a nope. So I'm sure that's how it is for chess as well. But anyways, the match, they had 3 matches together. And the first one, Josh got beat. The second one was a rematch. Josh beat Jeff. And then the final one, which is the basis of the final match of the game, that did happen the way that it did for the most part, that Josh saw his path to victory. He offered Jeff a draw, and Jeff still says no, and he goes on to still draw the game. The game ends in a draw. It does not end with Josh winning, which, by the way, what a creative and great way of the use of trick or treat as a as a way to just be like, gotcha. The only thing missing from them saying trick or treat is I just really wanted Josh to say at the end, trick or treat, fucker, or something like that, but it's never gonna happen. But
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
How about smell my feet?
Now,
you're going straight with
Hilty, do you have what happened after they came to a draw? Do you know that part?
No.
He's trying to read it right now, and he's not a good
I'm not a good reader.
I'm not a good reader.
I never learned to read.
I did read this, that they did come to a draw, which makes sense why the movie did what it did. But then they played out and I don't even know how this would work, but they played out like almost like an overtime where they play scenarios, and Josh ended up winning by outplaying the other guy in some kind of scenarios. So
Mhm.
all I can think is like golf, you tied, so you go throw a ball in a sand trap and see who can hole out from there. Like I don't really understand how it happened, but that's what I read.
Well, and then also the article I'm reading also says that Josh played more challenging opponents, so he got like a tiebreaker. He still
Oh,
won the tournament, but
right.
that's also part of it as well. So it just, I get why Hollywood does something like that because I do think the movie would have been interesting if it would have ended in a draw the way that it did, because it kind of just shows that Josh is kind of forging his own path in a way, because you have the two strategies that his coaches are employing. You've got the conservative end and you've got the ultra aggressive end of it. And then you have the dad who's being like, you got to win, all of that stuff. But then the draw is where Josh and even slash his mom, I guess, comes in a little bit with some influence there. Um, I think that there would have been something there if he would have been like, "Yep, I tried to give you a draw. I tried to take the high road on this, but you didn't want to take it, so I just ended up beating you instead." Which, yeah, good for him for doing that, but yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but the Hollywoodization of these biopics, um I don't know, sometimes they can get a little formulaic, but at the same time, I still really really enjoyed this. I was on the edge of my seat because I hadn't watched this in a long time, so I completely forgot about this. And anything to bring more awareness to chess is good. And the last piece I'll say is that Bobby Fischer was not very happy about his name being used for this. He got super pissed. He was like, "I didn't get paid for this. I feel like I got swindled." I'm like, dude, like, do you have to be such an asshole about everything? But yeah.
I think that kind
So.
of showed up in the Ben Kingsley character too. Not that he was an asshole or anything, but there's just not a lot of money in being a grandmaster in chess unless you're in those couple tournaments that might pay a few times a year. Like if you were like a top 5
Mhm.
and that's how you lived your life, like you're teaching classes, you're doing speaking engagements, you're trying to squeeze it for every nickel you can to be relevant in the sport.
Mhm.
Um, so I can see like, and Bobby Fischer seems like he probably was an asshole, probably had mental problems. So it's hard saying that, but same thing. I could see him. I didn't know anything about that, historically him coming back and,
Aaron, I
I,
like this. I really like this take on it because here's another thing that this movie touches on. You know, everybody sees LeBron James and is like, I got to go play basketball because I'm going to be famous because I have talent, and then struggle to play in a European league because you don't have NBA talent, right? Or not even just basketball, volleyball people chasing fame all over the place, trying to play, beach volleyball and get into the Olympics. And you see talent, you're encouraged to explore your talent, and unless you're elite talent, there's probably not money in it, right? But a lot of people can't do what you do, so you keep chasing it. It's like this, there's a lot of heartache there to be good but not great,
oh,
right? And I think this movie's kind of touching on that.
how many D1 quarterbacks are
Mhm.
eking out a living, coaching or having camps or having, one-on-ones, baseball players, pitchers, stuff like that. Just whatever they can do, they still want to be
Yeah.
in the sport, and but they never caught on, or they might even had a day in the sun, and maybe that's helping them recruit, for camps or whatever. But you know it's hard. I don't think for the majority of people who just missed that wave, missed the cusp of getting pushed over, and they never get that, you know $5 million contract for 3 years. They've got to make a living, and they're making, regular person wages with super talent,
Right.
just not extremely super talent, that cream of the crop that makes it to, millionaire status.
I know that Bobby Fischer was worth a lot of money when he died. I don't know how he acquired his money, but there was somebody even claimed to be his daughter, and they ended up exhuming his body to get DNA to see if she really was his daughter, so
Wow.
she could get her hands on some of his money. But yeah, I'm not sure how he got his money though. If it was from chess or from something else, maybe.
But yeah, like one thing I read or saw just today at the end when I was looking things up, he had a rematch against his Russian, counterpart, his Bane. And I thought it said he got paid $5 million for that match. I don't know if anybody can confirm or deny if I'm wrong on
I don't
that.
remember the number, but yeah, it seems like that was a pretty high profile match.
And
That was
that
the
was
one in
like in-
Iceland, right? He was,
Yep.
and then he
And that
stayed
was
in
like
Iceland.
2002 or something. So, and then he died in 2008.
Yeah, something like 20 years after he like came out of retirement to play the guy again, Boris.
He had a
something.
very interesting life.
And
after
hiding. He came
dropped
out of hiding,
Yeah.
not just retirement.
Yeah.
Hilty, were you done? We had cut you off completely.
Sorry.
Did you have more? Sorry about that.
No, it's
Okay.
it's all good.
Yeah, I'll go one further, Mike. He didn't just not like the movie. He said it was a Jewish conspiracy to sully his name.
Well, that came up when you
Well,
guys
that
somebody
sure.
brought
because
up.
he was
sure.
a very famous anti-Semite.
That's what I was gonna say.
He said it was all a conspiracy to sully his name and make money off of him.
His mom was Jewish. That's a weird thing.
It's just he had to be, there had to be, he was a genius, obviously, but like there also had to be something loose,
Yeah.
right? Like there was that fine line of genius and crazy. And I'm sure the pressure of being a child prodigy probably didn't help either, but
Oh,
Well,
and I
we
want
got
to bring
some-
that up because
Go
that's
ahead,
been
Aaron.
thrown out a couple times. Prodigy didn't look up at all. I could have right now while somebody else was talking. I thought Prodigy was like, all right, so both my parents are in orchestras, and from
Yeah.
birth they put a violin in my hand and they're teaching me. I thought like that was Prodigy. Like this seems natural talent, and I didn't know
Yeah.
if that's considered the
I
same
always
thing.
took prodigy as being like you more or less were born with some sort
Okay.
of natural gift.
I always took it as it was forced upon you, and the media never makes it seem that way. They make it seem like loving parents helped this kid nurture their piano playing ability at 2 years old.
Mhm.
But I always took it as prodigy meant like you were trained to do this, that it wasn't obviously there has to be a gift there too, but because this, in my mind, I wouldn't think of this the main character of this story up until this point of what I knew about being a prodigy or what I thought about being a prodigy wasn't a prodigy. I thought he was like a genius that took to chess and found it interesting.
Yeah.
Which
A
would be
raw-
exactly what a prodigy would be.
No, but that's what I'm saying up until this conversation.
No, I know.
didn't think of it that way.
I know. I'm
Right.
letting you know.
Oh, you're letting me know? You're letting me fucking know? Why don't you come over here and let me know some shit, Brian?
Somebody begin a chessboard in between those two real quick.
Oh, I'll leave.
Brian's going to run over his pawn with a rook.
He's got a castle shoved up his ass.
And not a chess piece.
So going back to Hilty saying the Hollywoodization of this, I
Mhm.
think I see what you're saying. At the end, the kid somehow through purity of heart rises above the expectations and offers the draw and teaches everyone the lesson that purity of heart is better than all of the unnecessary expectations. I'm not sure that's how it probably played out in that tournament, but that's that's what you get from Hollywood.
That's what his always right mother taught him, though, Tim.
That's right. Yeah, mom's always right. Listen to mom.
Mom's always right. Listen to mom.
That's not the
Oh.
worst advice in the world, really.
True. Yeah, so I'll just finish this up here. I had never seen it. It's an interest of mine. I do enjoy chess. I have a habit of rotating hobbies, and so every once in a while chess pops up in my rotation. My son showed some interest at some point. He's pretty good at math and things like that, so I thought he might have some talent, and he's fine. But Dan, if you're looking to play some chess, lichess.com, Lichess. It's free. You can play the computer and make yourself feel better, or you can play real people and get crushed like I do. Um, but as far as the movie goes, I thought the cast was awesome. I agree with whoever said it holds up. I think Tim or maybe a couple people said it. It holds up super well. Maybe Brian said that. Just impressive after 30 years. Yeah, the sort of the kid wanted to do the right thing, and he it's funny that it's going back to Hollywoodization. He wasn't even, I mean, he was good at chess, obviously, but he wasn't even like what you would consider an impressive chess player. He didn't hit the national master or whatever it is until 16, and most people hit that at 12, and he obviously got out of the game because whatever. So they overdid it a little, but I love the actor. I said that before. I thought the actor did a great job.
But Matt, don't you think that's appropriately placed anyway, though? Because it's not him saying I'm going to be Bobby Fischer. It's the people around him going, "Hey,
Right.
we found the next." Like
For sure.
that's the point of the movie
Yeah,
is
for sure.
people overreacting to his
For
talent.
sure, for sure. And I just think, yeah, they over dramatized that part of it, right? It's not like he was gonna beat
Oh, I see. They made him look
Gary,
better than he was.
right. He's not
I
gonna
see.
beat Gary Kasparov the first time he plays him, right? It's just but then and then we talked about it a little bit, and a lot of you talked about it, just youth sports, for lack of a, we'll just generalize sports, and we'll throw chess in there, I guess. Like I said, I'm part of the problem. My kid plays travel baseball, and it's a money grab in a lot of cases. We have teams that my kid should not be on a travel baseball team. I love him. He loves baseball. He's got some talent. But he should, in the, like, when you guys think of like good travel baseball teams, he shouldn't even be on there. But I love him, and he tries really hard, and his teammates love him, and he plays a role, whatever.
Do you
But
need
that's
me
what
to
we're
pause this and delete this out before we?
No, I've told him this.
Okay.
He knows.
Okay. Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
you're my favorite.
In a more loving
Was
way
it in
than
the
I'm
rain? Were you in the rain
It's not
sitting
in-
there?
It's not in the rain.
And you were
Did he
just
strike out and you were like,
pacing
how did you
back
let
and
yourself
forth?
strike out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I struggle with that as a parent, because you have to balance, like, he shouldn't even be here with, what are you doing? It's like, I can't get mad at him for something he can't do, right? But um but I do see it as a coach. I coach public school, high school sports, and these parents who think, oh my gosh, my kid's going to make it in the NBA, my kid's going to go D1. It's like, no, no, he's not. Like these kids who like, and not to get too much on a rant or a soapbox here, but when you guys were all in high school, I'm sure three-sport athletes were pretty normal, right? You play something in the fall, you play something in the winter, you play something in the spring, and then you probably go play baseball over the summer, or hockey or whatever. And they just, kids don't do that anymore, because they're like, oh no, I have to play baseball year round because I'm going to go to college to play baseball. It's like, no, you're not.
See, I was going to bring that up because I thought that was a thing that was getting better from like the introduction to cutthroat fed ball in the early to mid 2000s. I thought there was a lot of people, and maybe even from like the TikTok era, they're trying to push that more. Like, please don't have, especially your pre-high school kids, specialize. Have your kid play a bunch
Yeah.
of different stuff, because if they only play baseball from 8 years old to 18 years old, they're gonna get hurt
Exactly.
because they're not well
E-
rounded in
Well,
muscularity
and it's
stuff.
not only that, it's just, we got my son's in 13U, but even in 12U, we have kids throwing curveballs at 11 years old. Like, the kid's gonna have Tommy John surgery when he's 16. And it happens. There's high school kids having Tommy John surgery because they start throwing curveballs at 10, 11, 12 years old, and they shouldn't really be doing that.
So
It's
that's not actually getting any better.
No,
right.
Yeah,
it's
no, what
it's
kids should do
worse.
is just throw a sidearm. If you throw sidearm, that's
Life works out well.
Life works out well.
But to the point, I think my original point, Aaron, was it's getting worse because now there's more. It's, oh, my
Yeah.
kid didn't make the team I wanted him to make. Oh, well, I'll just start my own and I'll charge $2,000 a kid and we'll go play 35 games a summer.
Right.
And
I'll pay the fee to join this franchise of travel teams, so I have that
Correct.
recognition of their name and
Right,
charge. It's
there's very
insane.
few true like in it for the right reasons programs. And I feel like we found one in our area, but I don't know. Like I don't know what their intentions are. You know, I have a former like minor league guy who owns a dome and he's got turf in there and he has this big, it's a franchise. It's 8U through 16U baseball. And he says all the right things and they train the right way. But I don't know what his intentions are, right? He could just be trying to make money. But anyway, so all of that just to say, Aaron, like, no, I think it's gotten worse because now everybody and their mother goes, well, I didn't make that team, so I'm going to go start my own. And so now you have this watered down, just like, we're not teaching kids that you don't have to be good at everything. It's more like, nope, you just got to find the right place for you. It's like, well, no, the right place for you is you're not a good baseball player. Like you go have fun, go play over the summer, but you're not going to get a college scholarship. Like
The score is fun versus fun.
Yeah, right. So anyway, so on a rant, sorry, I'll get off my rant, but back to the movie. I love the movie. A couple things you guys talked about the real people being there. I guess Pandolfini, he was like nothing like Ben Kingsley.
Right. He doesn't look anything like him.
He was like curly hair, mustache, soft spoken, like he had nothing, he didn't even look like him. And you guys mentioned a lot of the other stuff.
Matt, since you bring him up,
yeah.
How many of you guys have seen The Queen's Gambit?
I have not. I don't have Netflix.
I have not.
I have.
If the chess stuff in this movie was something you liked, definitely watch that series because it's really, really good.
Yeah.
And he was part of that, right?
He did all the chess, like creating all the moves and the stuff for that show. So he's still kind of active, even, that's pretty recent, that's not too far.
Yeah.
Too many years ago.
Yeah. So, anyway, so I liked it. I'm glad I picked it because I got to see it. I would probably watch it again. I enjoyed it. It was very early 90s, like, hey, everything's going to work out and it's going to be lovey-dovey and mom's going to be right, Tim. And I get that. But no, I just thought it was fun. It was nice. And I think Aaron mentioned it, like the stuff about Bobby Fischer was fine. This movie was actually called Innocent Moves overseas, which I thought was interesting. I don't know if they changed the name for Bobby Fischer's, like they didn't want people. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I
think Bobby Fischer wouldn't go over in Europe or whatever.
Yeah, so that's true. Yeah, so they called it Innocent Moves, which I thought was a good title too. Yeah. I would have watched it if it was called Innocent Moves, but
all right, I have Mike Wilden's pick. Here are our 6 degrees of separation to get to our next pick here. He even labeled them out. The first degree, Ben Kingsley is in Iron Man 3 with Robert Downey Jr. The second degree, Robert Downey Jr. is in The Avengers with Chris Hemsworth. The third degree is Chris Hemsworth is in Thor: Love and Thunder with Christian Bale. Fourth degree, Christian Bale is in The Dark Knight with Gary Oldman. You can see the thread that he is working on here. The fifth degree, Gary Oldman is in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix with Alan Rickman. And then here we go. Alan Rickman is in our movie for this week. It will be 1999's classic featuring Alan Rickman, Galaxy Quest. Nice. Will be our movie for this week.
Very nice.
Doesn't that also have the guy that played Monk? Isn't he in that as well?
Tony Shalhoub.
Yes,
Tony Shalhoub.
He's in there as well, right?
He could have got there in one.
He could have just got in one spot.
That is the most Wilden thing that could have happened.
Now, did he think he had to go all 6?
Short story long. He went short story long. He said he believes it's on Paramount Plus and maybe Amazon Prime. So
that'll do it for this episode of the BTB Movie Club podcast. Thank you as always for listening. We know we enjoyed ourselves. We hope you did too. Have yourself a great week. We are partnered with the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network.